For the 59th time, we'll go twice round the clock with Daytona International Speedway. Hello everybody and welcome to the start of the 2021 international sports car season here in the US with the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship first round. It's like starting your season with the Super Bowl, isn't it? It's one of the very big ones. I'm John Hindhaugh in the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. There are 5 sets of Rolex Daytona Cosmograph watches up for grabs in 24 hours time. We're just inland from the famous Daytona Beach, land speed records and plenty of racing there. But the 3.5 mile road circuit here inside the oval, well, this place was always thought of as somewhere for endurance racing. And of course, the first meeting here was a sports car race. Of course it was. 12 corners make up the challenge that these drivers will be. And they spoke earlier on today. Well, take a bit of a breath early on then. Should have put a brew on if I'd known this was going to happen. You're listening to IMSA Cameron for Meyershank Racing, and look further back down the field. 5th position. Ollie Jarvis carving his way back through, so that yellow flag really helping out Mazda, and Ollie Jarvis already on the move, side by side with Philippe Albuquerque. In fact, no, he's gone through. Jimmy Johnson's right there, and the Ally Cadillac as well. Damage to the 79 Porsche share as well, because they're looking at the steering on the WeatherTech car.
Yeah, and damage to the splitter.
Here we go for the first of the pit stops for the leaders. So it's number 10 ahead of number 60 as the third place car for Chip Ganassi Racing comes onto the pit lane.
And Shea Adam has this VP Racing Fuel Pit Paddock report.
Renger van de Zande with the first pit stop of the year for Chip Ganassi Racing in their brand new Cadillac. This is fuel and tires. Now 38 sets of new Michelin tires for the week means that we should be seeing new tires at every pit stop opportunity for the DP category. These boys and girls know how to do pit stops. They're very well trained at it, and they've gone for a staggered option where they do the right rear and the left first front, and then the left rear and the right front last. So they're quite used to doing this. Some of the teams prefer to do one side at a time. Not Chip Ganassi Racing.
At the various markers, where are we set for those this year? When are they handed out?
They are handed out at 6 hours, 12 hours, 18 hours, and then the end of the race. So that is certainly something the teams will focus on. A lot of the teams have a big focus on the Michelin Endurance Cup. It's a good little carrot to get. Certainly last year, you were just talking about it's now running the number 1 car, Formula Racing Lamborghini. Because of COVID, they did not take part.
That were previously run by Juncos or Spirit of Daytona, or a car that has got some other history.
It's the Juncos car, in actual fact, and that's the car that was damaged. You remember that horrible crash that Victor Franzoni had at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, and then repaired afterwards, and repaired to absolutely pristine condition. In actual fact, the team, the Ganassi found out the car was available from Ricardo, and they made a few calls around, including one to Spencer Piggott, actually, who'd been the last guy to drive that car after the accident. Spencer said that the car was great, so he said, okay, fine, let's go get it. So that is the car from the number 50 Juncos car that's been run by Chip Ganassi Racing.
I've got a philosophical question here, and I know he's watching. Andy Blackmore, does Andy Blackmore have a spotter guide on the wall when he's watching, or does he know them off by heart because he's been working on them? Andy and Kira watching at the moment, and thank you for all your hard work, Andy, down through the years on spotterguides.com. Jeremy, this could be a time when we were all looking gloomy. We've got 49 cars here this year. We've got manufacturers recommitting. We've got new manufacturers coming in. We had a new Toyota in the Michelin Pilot Challenge yesterday and it led the race. It's good, and it's good for IMSA.
Oh, it's tremendous for IMSA. I completely agree with you. Absolutely magnificent for IMSA. These are exciting times for sports car racing. This LMDH new regulations have really caught, I think, the manufacturer's eye. You know, it's very cost effective in international motor racing terms. So I think that's why we're seeing already, 3 manufacturers have jumped on the bandwagon. I'm sure we're going to see more over the next few months or so. And the bad news is we've got to wait. I wonder whether the pit wall got onto him and said, look, you don't need to push too hard at this stage in a race. Just take it easy, throttle back, take your time. So that's something we'll follow up on and find out, hoping there isn't any sort of any difficulty for that number 10 car.
Andy Holbury, one of my former colleagues at Autosport magazine, tuned in as well. He's been enjoying this week wherever you are in the world. Good to have your company. 107.9 around the circuit. Sirius 216 XM 202, and thanks to them for loading us their airwaves, not just for this IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship race, but we'll have the whole season on Sirius XM as well. And if you're further afield, IMSARadio.com. Sound, obviously, because it's IMSA Radio, but also the live video tab with the full streaming international themes and Pro-Am classes. Now, we talked about rule. You and Jeremy have read the rule book as we've got the Felipe Nasser Whelan car into the pit lane. I'll keep an eye on that. You tell us about Pro-Am drive times.
Very simple. All silver and bronze drivers in the LMP3, LMP2, and GTD cars must drive for 4.5 hours total during the course of the race. There is a no more than 4 hours in any 6-hour period stint that applies to every driver in every category, and that also applies to Ben Keating, by the way, who's driving multiple cars, so he has 9 hours to complete.
On the restarts, the way the class works.
Yes, the class, there will be the restart. Yeah, we had the split start before the start of the class order, but not. It'd be very, very tricky at the restarts for all of the, particularly each other. But the restarts are complicated, let's put it that way. But the rules are designed to try and make sure that nobody is inconvenienced by the timing of a yellow. That's really basically what it boils down to.
Hello to Martin Short and to Ian Flux and a whole bunch of people who are swapping notes on this race on Facebook at the moment. Don't forget the Radio Show Limited Listeners Collective is a great place for chatting to like-minded people as the pits are open now for GT Daytona.
This time, Jeremy, pits are open and we're going to do the full rotation, if you like. We've got to a point where fuel is necessary. They won't be down to anything like empty tanks, but an opportunity nevertheless to do a stop and tweak the strategy once more.
Yes, and we've got looks like just 2 pit callers. A bit surprising for me. As you say, most of the time they've been under since they made the last
3 and 4 are labelled as such according to the banked oval. The pit callers that Jeremy mentioned, by the way, the 31 Felipe Nasser car and the Simon Pagenaud driven 48 Ally Cadillac racing machine, but everybody else has now come in, and this is on the lap that we had expected pit stops to happen. So from the race lead, Renger van der Zande in, and following him, Loic Duval in the 5 Mustang sampling Cadillac, also in Dane Cameron and Philippe Albuquerque in their Acuras for Meyer Shank and Konica Minolta respectively, the Mazda of Ollie Jarvis down pit road 2, and a whole load of LMP2s as well, the top 7 in fact from that division. It is busy right now, Joe Bradley, for this VP Racing Fuels pit and paddock report down in the pits.
It's at this stage of the race, Johnny, that this race always strikes me as a high-speed game of chess. What we're seeing now is right in the pit stop, the 31 car. It's come on to 4 tyres this time.
LMP3, it's the 91 car, which is the Riley Motorsports entered Ligier, so 5th place. Yes, it is, with Jim Cox at the wheel, and that looked to have happened in the vicinity of the bus stop on the back straight. The 0-1 car is also in as well on this lap from the DPI category. So Kevin Magnussen was fighting for the race lead with Ricky Taylor, but no longer. Magnussen parks it briefly and then is sent back out.
And they remain 3 laps behind, I think, at the moment. No, I lie. Beg your pardon. I think they were 2 laps behind, and they got at least one of those back. So that number 12 car is now, I think, just 1 lap down to the rest of the field. Here's a pit stop for the number 10 car. This is the last of leaders to make its pit stop on this sequence.
And out it goes in a tweak to the livery from previous years when that was applied to a Cadillac. Not a sponsorship, resplendent just beneath the driver's cockpit and on the rear dorsal fin as well. And the one that wasn't spinning, remember, 2 Riley Motorsports entered LMP3s in this race. The spinning car was Jim Cox at the bus stop, and the 74, the blue and orange car, is the other one now rejoining second place behind the class leader, which is the 33, and driving that is Lance Wilsey. There was a big problem for the 96 Turner Motorsport BMW. Hadn't spotted that first time around. 2 ago. That was the 31 car heading into pit road. I was just wondering if there was another car affected as well, but as you make the point, off-piste to some extent, the 31 car. Heard from Felipe Nasr, one of its drivers, a little earlier on. He took the start of the race from pole position. You're tuned to RS2 IMSA Radio, live from the Haggerty Global Broadcast Centre. Jeremy Shaw and Johnny Palmer, and bringing us the VP Racing Fuels pit and paddock reports is Joe Bradley.
I think I'm at
a hour mark. It's easy to miss the odd stint here and there. 0-1. Back in again. No, not back in again. It hadn't stopped at the same time or in the same group of stops as the other cars around it. So this is fine for the Cadillac Chip Ganassi Racing DPI. Kevin Magnussen comes in, and that will allow Ricky Taylor to take the lead for the moment. And Jonathan Bomarito, which side to go of the spinning Lexus? Do you go on the bit of road that it currently occupies, or aim for that bit and hope the car's no longer there as you stream past? Well, it's a mixture of the 2, I would suggest, and Bomarito did incredibly well to deal with that situation. Unsurprisingly, Jeremy, the 12 Lexus is in to have all of that dirt and grime and grass retrieved from the front splitter.
Yeah, I think that might have been on his in lap actually, because
that have got ahead pretty much neck and neck through Speedway's turn 1 and 2. In again under green is the 31 car, Jeremy. This car definitely ploughing its own furrow in terms of strategy. You're going in, you're happy with it?
yes, absolutely. All those cars are due a pit stop fairly soon, as we see one for the race leader, Tristan Vautier. He'd been under intense pressure from Kevin Magnussen, who closed in the gap from second to first. It was about 5 seconds, but for the last 7 or 8 laps they've been running nose to tail. But now scheduled service for number 5, 0-1 car back to the lead of race in this race.
For another stop for the 4th placed car, Ally Cadillac DPI, for a tyre change. It's open, but no driver change taking place there. So there'll be a new water bottle, quite probably, to check on the driver as well, making sure that all the creature comforts are intact. Clean up the screen. But the thing that Mike Rockefeller will be concentrated on the outlap is how much the lack of grip.
So I would expect Rigon to be in first of that trio. So we see a pit stop here for our race leader, Kevin Magnussen. Is Ricky Taylor going to stay out and take the lead?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? He's It's labelled as 2 minutes back from this car. So actually maybe he's already been through. We'll get that confirmed in a moment or two. I think he stayed out, Jeremy, so that will give the lead back again to the number 10 machine. The lights are cleaned on the Kevin Magnussen car. It's Maro Engel and Indy Doncha, who's just exited stage right from that Mercedes. From the race lead, remember, so they'll drop back again. Also on pit road is the Audi from NTE Sport. So Andrew Davies bringing that car in for another stop. And how many stops then has the Audi made? That'll be its fifth, which is about right for GT Daytona. Carl Kirkwood yet to make its latest stop. Once it comes in, that'll be stop 5 as well. Yeah, take the start of the race.
Yeah, that's very true, Johnny, because there was an off again at that notorious pit exit here at Daytona. Alametti was going out, I'm not sure which day it was, can't remember which day it was now. I think it was on Friday morning, no, it must have been on Thursday, sorry. And he collected them all there, and quite a lot of damage to the right-hand side of that car. In actual fact, yes, last night they were still waiting for some parts.
The exhaust and the tailpipes of this Corvette. Do you remember that last year? Got the two of us very puzzled indeed. It was a cool effect. But we were wondering whether it was actually meant to be doing that.
Yeah, good point. Just play for the crowd.
Be able to see which vaccine is working for more effectively for what kinds of patients. My personal suspicion will be that they might find out that certain vaccines work better for certain pre-existing conditions, like diabetes or some lung disease. So that's what I think we're going to do. So ours, the results of this work is more downstream still and may not happen for another 6 or 8 months. Whereas the developers of the vaccines, the two drug companies that are
Paul Miller Racing Lamborghini Huracan, car number 1, ahead of Klaus Bachler, the young Austrian driver for Wright Motorsport. That's the Porsche number 16, ahead of Matteo Cressoni for AF Corsa and the Ferrari 488 number 21. That's the latest Mazda in-race update here on RS2 IMSA Radio. All pit stops taking place for the DPIs, including for Elio Castroneves, so I'm not sure he ever did actually get to the lead of the race, Jeremy Shaw. We had Scott Dixon in and out. Elio, I'm sure, is not going to be taken away from that car just yet, so he'll stay in. But I don't think at any point he got the lead, did he, in the number 10?
No, I don't think he did, not quite. No, because he's quite a long way behind. The two leaders have pulled about 25 seconds over the number 48 car, which was in the lap previously. And
inflated, it looks fine on the right-hand side. There may be an issue on the left, possibly with suspension or a Michelin tyre which is on its way down. Tough to tell, but it's just about going to make its pit stall. There's another car rejoining, which is the 25 BMW, which very nearly caught the back of the Lamborghini Huracan. When you're making your stop and then rejoining, you have to be so much aware of what is going on around you, because cars heading into the pits aren't necessarily going to be up to speed. This could well be fuel, Jeremy Shaw. The car's not even going to make its stall. And here come GRT Grasser as a team. 4 guys to try and get the car into the right place. I think it is on the dregs of that fuel tank. So they're all now pushing the GRT Grasser car to its rightful position. I've got a sheet of paper here that tells me how far down pit road GRT Grasser Racing Team are positioned, and I make its boxes 32 and 33. It's box 32 for car 19, but it must have stopped closer to stall 22. So 10 boxes further down, and finally GRT Grasser can get the airline plugged in, it goes up on its internal jacks, and the fuel can now go in. Joe Bradley's got a thought on what's going on for GRT.
You know what? That was an
Something
almost
else.
perfect fuel stint, wasn't it? To get that,
It looks like it, yeah.
To get that close to the pit box. Maybe the next time they calculate a refueling stop, they'll maybe not just they'll not shave that razor blade as finely as that. I think that was
Martin. So how many different manufacturers can I offer you in the top 5? 4 with a Ferrari, a Porsche, 2 Aston Martins, 3rd and 4th, and the Mercedes in 5th position. So we're nearing the end of this little segment of our broadcast with RS2.
Just talking about the virtual world, they made that change halfway through the practice in Daytona, and interestingly, it didn't. It only took about a second off a lap time. You think it would take a lot more, but and about 5 miles an hour down the main straight.
You said that made them easier to drive in some respect.
Yeah, definitely did. The thing to remember is, and it's interesting, you may lose 40 horsepower, but if you think Daytona's a really, really interesting track, you look at it, you think this is so simple, and then you actually realise, no, it's really difficult. Think about how many times the car is accelerating at very low speed.
Down the lane, that was the Mazda, Jonathan Bomarito getting out of that car, and Oliver Jarvis getting back in. So that's all 3 of the Mazda drivers who have now rotated through the car, not necessarily rotating in the car, thankfully, but it was fuel and tires for Mr. Jarvis as he heads back out onto the course and also into the pit lane. Another English driver that we love a lot, Oliver Gavin, in his back so far, but apparently they are pushing like crazy for the remainder of this race. Remember, this is one of 2 cars that Ben Keating is driving in the race today. So even if this one isn't his winning speed.
The 3 machine, and that car sitting well down. That is the, excuse me, it's the 38. Yeah, it's the 38. My apologies why I put that into LMP2.
I will say, and I'm a great fan of multi-class IMSA racing, but I really wish, as someone who's kind of coming to it, once a year, effectively working on the event, they'd adopt the same thing as Graventic do. Whereas each of the classes has their own set of numbers.
Oh, I agree. I should have said that to John. Should have said that to John Doonan. Absolutely.
Right. Number 7. What on earth group is number 7 in?
Well, it's 38. It was in 7th position.
I know.
That was the thing. And I think it's borrowed some parts from one of its IPC LMP3 stablemates there, because it didn't look like that at the start. Shea, give us an update on these pit stops, and then we'll do a quick rundown and some Michelin Endurance Cup points from about 5 minutes ago. Leads then from Chip Ganassi Racing, Cadillac from Cadillac. Mike Rockefeller in second is nearly 40 seconds behind. Elio Castro Neves next up in the number 10 for Coddingham and Alta. That, of course, now an Acura for the Wayne Taylor team. 5th place Cadillac is, fourth place is the number 5 Cadillac of Loic Duval. Another 30 seconds further back. Decent battle for 2nd and 3rd, actually, between Rockefeller and Castro Neves out on the circuit. Mazda in 5th, the number 55, Ollie Jarvis back in that car now. They've signed 4th place in LMP2, and that's a Talara, of course. Then the other chassis, Ligier, Salih Yolik, the Turkish driver, RWR Eurasia in 5th, and the top 6 made up by Ryan DL for Era Motorsport, but he's about another 20 seconds back. GT Le Mans, Corvette, notwithstanding Alex taking a little bit of a grassy route round the international horseshoe a little while ago. I've paused for a moment. You a huge amount less of track time.
Yeah, it's not to penalize anyone. It's not to say you have to sit in the pit lane for 8 minutes. It's a safety thing. So IMSA doesn't care, quite frankly, if it comes under safety car or if it comes under green flag racing. As long as the job is done, the brakes are changed safely, and the brakes are changed effectively, that's what matters. That's why they gave it the 8-minute window, to make sure that everything can be done and that no teams are going to be rushing to try and get anything done.
The other side of that is that they didn't want people splashing out many tens of thousands of dollars on quick change brake equipment or fittings. But the point Wade, I think he's making, and it's one that's well made. If you can do it under a yellow and you compare as well, they have additional points for the longer races. And anyway, I don't have to worry about it, because that's why I've got Shea and Jeremy to do all of that. We were talking about the 16 Wright Motorsport Porsche earlier on, Shea, and it has just pulled into the pit lane for what looks to be fuel only.
Which would mean that Patrick Long is staying aboard, and it means that he is not getting new Michelins, and indeed he's not. Just a clean out of the radiator grill and waiting for the Ginger Ninja to go back out on the circuit. Doesn't even get a windshield tear off, just gets it clean. But you know what, Wright Motorsport, I'm a little mad at you right now. I really wanted to see that battle between Sellers and Plongy, and nope, as soon as Sellers started catching up, they called him into the pit lane. But this is interesting, because this means that Patrick Long is going to double stint his tires, whereas Brian Sellers was already double stinting his tires.
Radio Show Limited and IMSA Radio in London in the UK, just south of the River Thames there. Tim Gray earlier on, and it's Kes Cobb, the irreplaceable Kes Cobb, who I was listening to on the wireless the other day.
Oh my gosh, really?
It is actually an online radio station, and she was playing some cracking 80s and 90s music. I was very happy indeed to be tuned in. That was last Sunday, actually, once we'd got finished with the 100 minutes of racing, sung jingles and everything.